Socrates. Socrates, often credited as the founder of Western philosophy, never wrote any texts. We primarily know about him through his student Plato, who recorded his teachings in the form of dialogues. He is renowned for the concepts of the Socratic method and Socratic irony. The Socratic method unfolds through dialogue, using brief questions and answers in which Socrates and his interlocutors explore various aspects of an issue or abstract concept, often reaching an impasse where they are completely unable to define what they thought they understood. Socrates would feign ignorance of the topic under discussion to expose the inherent flaws in his interlocutors' arguments. This approach is known as Socratic irony. Socrates' theory of virtue asserts that all virtues are essentially one because they represent a form of knowledge. For Socrates, the reason a person is not virtuous is due to a lack of understanding. Another famous dictum, "No one errs willingly," also stems from this theory. One of Socrates' most well-known quotes is, "I know that I know nothing." Plato. Plato is most famous for his theory of forms, which denies the reality of the material world, considering it merely an image or replica of the true world. For instance, although we see numerous examples of individual trees, including various species, they are all imperfect imitations of the ideal form of a tree. This form is not any specific tree, but rather a perfect, unchanging, ideal tree encompassing all qualities that make something recognizable as a tree. This theory is often illustrated through the allegory of the cave, where Plato describes people who have lived chained to the wall of a cave all their lives, facing a blank wall. These individuals observe shadows cast on the wall by objects passing in front of a fire behind them, and assign names to these shadows. The shadows constitute the prisoner's reality, but they are not accurate representations of the real world. The shadows symbolize the fragment of reality we can perceive through our senses, while the objects near the fire represent the true forms that can only be grasped through reason. Aristotle. For Plato, forms exist separately from the objects they imitate. However, Aristotle believed that while forms underpin phenomena, they are instantiated in particular objects. Plato argued that some forms exist independently of specific things. For example, the concept of good may exist even if no particular good thing does. Aristotle rejected this idea, insisting that all forms are realized at some point and that no forms exist without connection to tangible things. Moreover, Aristotle disagreed with Plato regarding the location of forms. Plato suggested that forms exist apart from the objects participating in them, while Aristotle maintained that forms are inherent within the objects they define. According to Aristotle, the form of an apple exists within each apple rather than in a separate realm of forms. This concept is known as immanent realism. Aristotle also posited that the world is composed of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. He believed these elements are evenly distributed throughout the universe and make up the heavenly spheres and stars. Epicurus. Epicurus claimed that the purpose of philosophy is to live and help others, live joyful and peaceful lives by eliminating pain and fear. He argued that the greatest obstacle to happiness, and the main reason humans created philosophy, is the fear of death. His solution was simple. There is no reason to fear death because when we exist, death is absent, and when death is present, we no longer exist. Epicurus believed the universe consists solely of matter and void. Matter is composed of atoms, tiny, unchanging particles defined only by shape, size, and weight. He argued that for the universe to endure, its fundamental components must be immutable, otherwise the universe would cease to exist. Epicurus held that there must be an infinite supply of atoms, although only a finite number of types, and an infinite amount of void. This infinite supply of atoms results in an infinite number of worlds. Epicureans believe that sensory experiences also depend on atoms. Every object continuously emits particles that interact with observers. All sensations, such as sight, smell, or sound, rely on these particles. While the emitted atoms do not inherently possess the qualities we perceive, the way they are emitted causes observers to experience certain sensations. For example, particles responsible for the color red are not themselves red, but are emitted in a way that makes the observer perceive the color red. Due to his reliance on sensory perception, Epicurus is often categorized as an empiricist. Pythagoras. Pythagoras was a mathematician who believed that the universe could be understood through numbers and their relationships. The Pythagoreans were dedicated to discovering abstract principles, contributing to the development of ancient Greek idealist philosophy. They promoted the idea of the soul's immortality and the concept of reincarnation. One of the most notable contributions of Pythagorean thought is the Pythagorean theorem. Diogenes. Diogenes was one of the founders of Cynicism, a philosophy asserting that wealth, power, fame, and other conventional desires are misguided pursuits, and that virtue is the path to true happiness. According to Cynicism, happiness is achieved by living in harmony with nature, following one's innate sense of reason, and embracing simplicity and shamelessness free from social conventions. Consequently, cynics lived with only the bare necessities and practiced shamelessness by defying societal norms. Diogenes himself owned only a cloak, a staff, and a knapsack. He openly defecated, urinated, and engaged in self-pleasure in public without concern for societal judgment. The Cynics are also credited with introducing the concept of cosmopolitanism. When asked where he came from, Diogenes famously replied that he was a citizen of the world. If you want more videos, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.